today to do my new and for review book haul, where I show you all the books I have bought new for myself or been sent by publishers. There's also a couple of gifts in this book haul particularly. But before we get into the books, I do want to say a massive thank you to the sponsor of today's video, who are the Great Courses Plus. They are a subscription-based on-demand video learning website with a huge array of lectures on various different topics. Now, what I've been really enjoying about the Great Courses Plus is that they structure their lectures and videos according to courses, so you can set yourself up in your own time to take one of their courses, which will have however many lectures, say for example 10, that you can follow step by step when you have the time on whatever days work for you, and learn something all the way from the basics up to like a more advanced level. So I've been recently following some of their mindfulness courses because I've been really struggling with my anxiety. I've been looking for ways to kind of overcome it, to start off the day in the best possible frame of mind. I've been practicing my yoga and breathing techniques and just giving myself a little bit of space and time to relax and adjust to the world and calm down a little bit. And I really appreciate feeling like I'm following a step-by-step guide or course like the Great Courses Plus provides, because I'm somebody that likes structure. I'm somebody that likes feeling like I'm getting expert advice, which I am getting with the Great Courses Plus. And one of the things I really enjoy about their website, outside of perhaps learning something practical like mindfulness, is that they have lots of fun courses on like history. So if you're somebody who, I know I have a lot of subscribers that are interested in different historical periods or learning more about history, but aren't about to go to uni or back to uni to do a whole degree in something, but equally need to know where to start and want like a kind of step-by-step guide to learning about a topic, as opposed to just picking books up willy-nilly and feeling like you don't know what level to start at with learning something, if that makes sense. Then I really like the idea of like an online course, but that also doesn't have the pressure of exams, etc. So that's one of the things I really enjoy about their website. So if that does sound of interest to you, please do visit thegreatcoursesplus.com/bookish thoughts. You can give their free trial a go, get an idea for the diversity of subjects and courses that are on there, dip in, dip out, and find something that suits you. And once again, thank you so much for sponsoring this video, because it does make it so much easier for me to create regular online content with sponsorships like the Great Courses Plus. And now let's get into the books, starting with the books that I bought myself. Now, the first two I bought for the same reason, and that's because I watched the first episode of the new BBC Art series, Novels That Shaped Our World, and the first episode is all about like women in literature and the relationship between women and literature. And there's a few books in that episode that just had me so intrigued, and they're quite different in terms of time period. One is an early 20th century novel and one is a 21st century novel, but we'll start with the 20th century work, which is a Persephone edition. This is No Surrender by Constance Maud. Now, Constance Maud was a suffragette herself, and this is a novel in the sense that it follows fictional characters, it follows a fictional suffragette and her relationships in her life. I think that there might be a romance element to this, but it is very, very rooted in truth and history, because it also explores the suffrage movement and women's liberation and the real hardships and like brutal tactics used by the government to kind of deter suffragettes. So it's not, I think, a like light and fluffy read, but the intention was that it would get into the hands of more women, the message of women's suffrage, and I think it sounds so fascinating. Persephone books, if you haven't seen them before, always do these beautiful end papers, and they focus on publishing classics by women that are lesser known, less part of the canon, but this sounds like it's something that we should definitely all be reading, particularly in the run-up to a general election, so I'm looking forward to this. And then I picked up the very recent, in fact, novel Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. Now, I've heard a lot of people talk about this book, a lot of people rave about this book since it came out, but that was really the first time that I felt entirely compelled to pick it up. Maybe it's because the author herself was interviewed in the documentary, I don't know, but something about watching that episode made me need this book, and I ordered it immediately. This is compared time and time again to Bridget Jones, but I think that's just because it's kind of the go-to like women's fiction title that everything then needs to be compared to, probably unnecessarily. What this is the story of Queenie, a young black woman living in London, and her everyday life, the ups and the downs, a real honest look, and it's meant to be like the kind of book that will make you cry and make you laugh, and that sounds brilliant, and I can't wait to read more about Queenie. So yeah, that documentary really did a number on my wallet because I had to pick up both of those books after seeing it. I didn't buy a lot of other books new for myself, but one more I do have is A Place Called Perfect by Helena Duggan, and this is a middle grade book. I have been reading a lot of middle grade recently, particularly as I was one of the judges for the Blue Peter Book Awards, and loving it. Like, loving it so much. I just want more and more middle grade at the moment, and when I asked for recommendations on Instagram, this one came up a couple of times, so I researched it and it sounded brilliant and I had to pick it up. The book itself is all about Violet, who moves to a town called Perfect, where everything has to be perfect. You have to wear glasses or else you'll go blind, and the implication is that things aren't really as perfect as they seem, but equally that kind of a little bit of chaos can be a good thing. And it sounds like a lot of fun. I think there's a bit of like a strange and weird mystery. Yes, her dad has disappeared, and then when she makes friends with a little boy from this town, she learns her dad's not the only person to have disappeared. So I think this sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. It seems like exactly what I need, a little bit of like a strange, fantastical middle grade book, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. But then, like I mentioned, I do have two books which were gifts. They were gifts to me from a subscriber that I was not expecting, and I've not been having the best time recently, which is slightly irrelevant to this video, but I just came home one day feeling kind of crummy, and these books were waiting for me, and honestly I teared up. I am so grateful. They were such a kind thought, and we've since chatted and she told me why she picked these books, so I'm really excited to read them, but they were both on my wish list. And the first one is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. Now I think this is a young adult fantasy novel, but quite a dark young adult fantasy novel inspired by the fairy tale of the Dancing Sisters, or the 12 Dancing Princesses, should I say. In this story, Annalie is one of the sisters of 12, and 4 of her sisters have passed away in increasingly strange circumstances, and there seems to be some sort of like presence haunting their home, and she has to kind of figure out what's happened alongside her other sisters and keep everybody safe. It also falls into the category of sounding quite spooky and dark, which I've also been super in the mood for recently, so I'm really excited for this one. And then going on my middle grade journey with me is The Land of Roar by Jenny McLaughlin. I have heard so many good things about this middle grade book, and it's got a dragon on the front, which we know is automatically going to make me want to read something. I love dragons, and I do keep meaning to read the How to Train Your Dragon books because I really liked the films, if you can't tell by my little toothless here, so maybe that's something I'll pick up after reading this one. But I am excited to have some more dragonish middle grade on my shelves. This one follows twins Arthur and Rose, who created this fictional world between them called the Land of Roar, where they would play imaginary games and be the heroes, and then I think perhaps they end up in the Land of Roar for real, so it's not so fictional after all, and that just sounds absolutely brilliant. Really excited for both of these books, so thank you so much. And that brings us on to the books that were sent to me by Review for Publishers, and the first one's so excited about, but only very recently got excited for, and that is the Carry On series by Rainbow Rowell. So the first book is Carry On, and the second book is Wayward Son, which just came out. And since this book came out, I have just finally given in to the hype. So many people rave about these books. I've never read any Rainbow Rowell. A lot of her books don't really sound like my thing because I'm not massively into YA contemporary, but these are YA fantasy with a bit of like a Harry Potter niche. In fact, I think they're often described as queer Harry Potter, which I am so here for. And yeah, people have been talking about them for a long time, and I've never really felt compelled to read them until this one came out and more people were getting on the bandwagon, and I was like, you caught me. The bug has caught me. Plus, look how stunning this edition is. End papers, and then beautiful. I am a sucker for a beautiful book as well. But these were sent to me by Emma over at Book Break, who very kindly also sent me the original book since I hadn't read book 1. And like I said, they're kind of queer Harry Potter in that they follow like a chosen one at a magical school, except that he's gay, which is awesome. One thing I am curious about, are these named after the Kansas song? Like, I'm so confused by the names because I just think of that song, you know, Carry On My Wayward Son. But then again, maybe that's like a common phrase in the US that I just don't know, so let me know if you know about that. But since I was just talking about middle grade, I'll mention the last middle grade that I do have that was sent to me by Usborne Publishing, and that is The Girl Who Speaks Bear by Sophie Anderson. Another beautiful cover. Like, middle grade covers are really on point from what I'm seeing in the bookshops at the moment, and this one sounds so lovely. It's about a little girl who was found in a bear cave when she was a baby and then was raised by this village, but they still don't seem to quite trust her. They look on her a little bit suspiciously, and she decides to run away and kind of solve the mystery of her past. She's known as Yanka the bear, and it says on the back she's known as Yanka the bear, but not because of where she was found, so I'm intrigued to know where she gets that name from. And yeah, I've heard really good things about this, so I'm excited to pick it up. We then have a sequel that I am so excited to have on my bookshelf. I'm going to be reading this during the Queer Lit Readathon. I'm tempted to read it now, but I read the first book during the Queer Lit Readathon, so I kind of want to save it, and that's going on at the beginning of December. But if you haven't guessed, it's Girls of Storm and Shadow by Natasha Nangan. This is the sequel to Girls of Paper and Fire, which is a queer female fantasy novel, which also does deal heavily with themes of misogyny, patriarchy, generally hierarchical societies, and sexual abuse. We follow a teenage girl who has been forced to become one of the king's 10 concubines through no choice of her own. Like, naturally, from the word forced, you already got that, and I didn't need to repeat myself. But amidst that tense political situation, she also falls in love with one of the other concubines, who are known as Paper Girls, and I thought that the relationship between those two characters was one of the best, like, female romances I've read in YA when I read book one, so I'm so excited to see what happens next for these two characters. It is inspired in part by kind of Malaysian culture and folklore, so that's really nice to see, and I've been hearing as good things about the sequel as book one, so yeah, so excited. Is there a book here I'm not excited about? We shall see. We then have The Wayward Girls by Amanda Mason, which falls into my kind of spooky, dark thriller mystery category that I've been reading recently as well. And we follow Lou, who grew up in this house that appeared to be haunted. There was like goings on and noises throughout their time there that made it impossible for them to continue living there. And now, more than 30 years later, she has to return to this childhood home and discover what was going on. And I feel this is going to be one of those mystery novels where you're not sure if there is or isn't a paranormal edge, which I really like. That sense of mystery around, like, is there ghosts or is there a logical explanation for things? So really excited for this. We then have two books which again fall into the category of a first book that I completely missed the hype for, but a new book has come out by that author, which has given me the opportunity, I think, to go back to the first one as well. And those are, of course, Erin Morgenstern's book, The Night Circus, which is the original book I mentioned. These are not sequels to one another, and her new book, The Starless Sea. So I don't know a terrible amount about The Night Circus, other than it follows a young woman and a young man who are part of a night circus. I think it's magic realism, and this is a new edition exclusive to Waterstones, I think, that has just come out, and I just think is stunning and is going to make me finally read this book because everyone seems to love it. I feel like one of the only people on BookTube who hasn't read it, so I'll be really interested to see what I think of it, but I am excited because I do love magic realism. And then we have her new book, which is equally as gorgeous, The Starless Sea, and this one is a book about books. So it follows Zachary, who stumbles across a mysterious tome in his university library that sends him on a quest. And again, this one's been getting fantastic reviews, following on from The Night Circus, as it does have like quite a loyal fan base. But yeah, they seem to be enjoying her latest work, so I'm going to trust all of you basically and read a little bit of Erin Morgenstern in the next few months, and I'm really excited. We then have another book which Emma at Book Break kindly sent over to me, and that is The True Queen by Zen Cho. This is set in the same world as Zen Cho's Sorcerer to the Crown series, but it is a standalone following different characters. So I think this one may be like a fun in, and it's always nice to have a few more standalone fantasy books on my bookcases because they're a little bit harder to come across. But it's set in a version of 19th century London which has close ties to the fairy world and a whole like institute of magic going on in the background, so a kind of magical alternative 19th century London, which just sounds like my dream. And we follow two sisters, one of whom I think is kidnapped by the Fae, and her other sister obviously has to go and save her, and I love those kind of narratives. I love a good like evil fairy narrative, because it really reminds me of the kind of traditional folklore that I grew up reading, where the fairies were not the nicest of people, and I'm excited to get around to this. I have read a novella by Zen Cho in the past and adored it, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to continue to love her writing. We then have The Good Luck Girls by Charlotte Nicole Davies, and this is all about a group of girls in a fantasy world who were kidnapped as children, branded with these marks and forced to serve a role that they never wanted to. It's a little bit unclear what that is, a little bit of a mystery. But when one of their sisters accidentally kills a man, the girls risk a harrowing journey to find freedom, justice and revenge in a country that wants to have none of those things. Pursued by powerful forces, both living and dead, their only hope lies in a story passed from one girl to another, a story that only the most desperate could ever believe. And again, I've just heard great things about this, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. Didn't say excited, but I am. Then we have some non-fiction, and this one was sent to me by Edinburgh University Press, and that is Tales of the Troubled Dead, Ghost Stories in Cultural History by Catherine Belsey, which, like I just mentioned, I've been really into my creepy books at the moment. I'm also always up for some non-fiction, so this one sounds so up my street. And it's all about the function that ghost stories have served throughout history to different cultures and communities, which I think sounds fascinating and something to always kind of ponder when you're reading ghost stories yourself in the 21st century. What function do they serve? It's a really interesting question, and I'm looking forward to reading a non-fiction book about it. And last but not least, we have a proof copy of The Animals at Lockwood Manor by Jane Healy. Now, this proof is absolutely stunning. I cannot wait to see what the final thing looks like. It comes out next year. I love birds and gold foiling, so this is just an amazing proof, I have to say. But the story itself is set in 1939 as the world goes to war. Hetty Cartwright arrives at Lockwood Manor, tasked with the evacuation and safekeeping of the Natural History Museum's most treasured animal collection. Yet life at the manor proves challenging for Hetty, who must protect her charges from both the irascible Lord Lockwood and resentful servants. It seems that every inhabitant has something to hide, not least Lucy, Lord Lockwood's beautiful yet haunted daughter. But when some of the animals start to go missing, Hetty begins to suspect that someone or something is stalking her through the darkened corridors of the house. Amid the rumours of ghosts and curses, what else is Lockwood Manor hiding? That sounds so good. Again, very excited. I'm excited for all of these books. I think there's such a fun selection here of things that I genuinely can't wait to read. I wish I could literally read 20 books at a time. That would be so handy, but I will try to get to them all as quickly as possible and let you know my thoughts. I'd love to hear if you have read or are interested in reading any of these books, as that might sway my opinion as to where to start. And once again, thank you so much to Great Courses Plus for sponsoring this video, and until next time, happy reading. I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys!